what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a series of questions that you will want to ask your supplier once you start to narrow and focus in. Hey, Amazon business owners and soon to be Amazon business owners, Bob Schneck with you again today. I'm super excited to be here. I thought I'd jump on and do a quick video about vetting suppliers. Now, before I get started, for those of you that I've had the opportunity to meet at one of our conferences or one of our trade shows, thanks for tuning in. Congratulations for continuing that education. For those of you that are brand new, let me introduce myself. As I said, my name's Bob Schneck. I've been selling online for over 20 years. Now, I know that dates me, but I think it's an important point to make, because if you want to learn something new, you need to learn from somebody that's been there and done that. So for 20 years, I've been selling online. For the last 5 years, I've been selling specifically and exclusively on Amazon, the greatest platform on the internet today. And for the last 2 years, I have joined forces with a group of amazing Amazon sellers and business experts. And we have had the opportunity to travel the world. I have thousands of students just like you that I've had the blessing to teach how to build Amazon businesses. Now, notice what I said. It's not just how to sell Amazon products or products on Amazon, but how do you scale it so that you can build an Amazon empire? See, that's the difference right there. Now, with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a series of questions that you will want to ask your supplier once you start to narrow and focus in. Now, this is a step that follows finding suppliers. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you click the button below and subscribe, and also hit the little blue bell up here, and that will allow you to get notifications when I post new videos. So in other videos, I talk about 6 different methods for finding suppliers. Now, those are ways to identify potential suppliers. What I want to talk about today are a series of questions to ask them in the process of vetting them out to make sure that they do what you need them to do and they can be long-term partners in your Amazon business. So let me go ahead and shrink myself down a little bit here, myself up in the corner, and I'm going to go through a series of questions that you might want to write down as I go through them to ask your potential partners. All right, so question number 1, do you allow credit? In other words, it takes money to make money, and money comes in all different forms. And by the way, I have a whole nother video on obtaining money for your Amazon business. The number one reason why most people don't scale their business is they don't have access to money or credit. So make sure you check out that video so you can learn some amazing ways to create cash for your business. So ask your suppliers, do they offer potential credit? 30-day net, 90-day net, where they will actually let you have the products and then bill you for those products. Now, typically, you're not going to get that in the very beginning. It usually comes once you've established a relationship with your supplier, but it's a good question to ask. Next question, where do most of your sales come from? Brick and mortar, online retailers, or other wholesalers? Now, the reason we're asking that question is it kind of starts to help us identify what kind of competition we have. When I have a choice, I like to work with suppliers that work mostly with brick and mortar stores. Now, obviously, there's a reason for that because they're selling in the general public brick and mortar style while I'm online. But that doesn't mean I won't work with one that actually works with other retailers. I also like to work with those that actually wholesale products as well. The next one is, what is the typical lead time? Meaning, once you go ahead and make a payment to purchase, or you've said, I want this this widget. And by the way, very important point, we don't care what we sell. Remember, we're widget agnostic. We make decisions based on numbers, right? As long as the numbers add up, then we don't care what we sell. I'll sell urinal cakes if I have to, as long as it puts cash in my pocket, right? Legal, ethical, and morals, all we really care about. But what you want to do is you want to find out that once you place your order and once you give them the money for the order, how long does it actually take for them to box it up and ship it to Amazon for you? Again, very important point right there. We don't want to work with suppliers that aren't willing to ship to Amazon on our behalf, because that way, if they'll only ship to us, then we have to touch it and feel it, and we're not interested in that. Okay, so how is your payment process? What is the time difference between payment received and shipment of products? Those are all kind of the same questions, but you want to get a really clear understanding. And if they're able to put it in writing for you, it makes it all the better. Do you have a minimum order, or what are called MOQs? Now, most suppliers will have minimum orders or MOQs. Now, it can come in one of two different formats. It can come in the form of a minimum order purchase price. In other words, they'll only accept orders of $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000. Now, if you're on a limited budget and you're just getting started, that's obviously a very important question to ask. And the other thing is sometimes minimum order quantities or MOQs will come in units. In other words, you can have this widget, but the minimum order quantity or MOQ is 500 units. So again, we want to figure out what that is they're willing to work with us. Now, if you're just getting started, sometimes they're willing to work with you on smaller budgets. So again, questions you need to ask, because this is how we identify the suppliers we want to work with. How often do you get new inventory in? Now, this is really important because we're going to be asking our supplier on a regular basis for new inventory. In other words, we're going to want them to send to us files or emails and letting us know when they get inventory. If they're a company that's kind of stale or stagnant, meaning they only get stuff once every 6 months or once a year or something, you're going to want to move away from that. You want somebody that has new stock coming in all the time that you're going to learn how to analyze. And again, in another video, we go through how to analyze a supplier's inventory. Are you able to get your current inventory in a CSV file? Now, the reason this is important is I'm going to be introducing you to software that allows us to work smarter and not harder. Remember, I talked a little bit earlier in some other videos about how we want to have a competitive advantage. Sometimes a supplier will send you a database of their inventory, and there's 10, 15, 20. I had one the other day that was 50,000 items. Now, there's no way you can humanly go through that. So I'm going to introduce you to tools that are accessible to us to do that work for us. Also, the tools that I will show you require that the inventory or the databases we receive from the supplier come in what is called a CSV file, comma separated value file. And again, I go into all that in another video that you want to check out. How long have you been in business? Now, this is one that I don't worry too much about. I'm not afraid to work with new suppliers. As a matter of fact, I kind of like it, only because I'm sort of the big fish in the pond at that point, right? They like to work with me and they're willing to bend over backwards. So don't be afraid to work with newer companies. Does your company attend trade shows? And if so, when is the soonest one for you? Now, one of my favorite, if you've watched my other video on different ways to identify suppliers, one of my absolute all-time favorite strategies is our trade shows. There's a couple that I really, really like. One is called the ASD show. That is in Las Vegas. It's held twice a year. I also love the CES show. Again, great shows. Now, I'm going to counsel you. Again, if you haven't watched the video on finding and identifying suppliers, make sure you watch that, because my experience with trade shows, I went to my very first trade show about 5 years ago, and I was so overwhelmed when I walked in that I literally walked out. Okay, and the reason was is there's a way to attend a trade show to get the most out of it. And in my other video where I talk about finding suppliers, I go into great depth, so make sure you get a chance to watch that one. Trade shows are awesome, though. Are all of the products new unless otherwise noticed? Now, let me tell you why this is important, because sometimes you'll deal with suppliers that have new products, but they also do closeout, damaged, returned items, refurbished items. And if you've watched the video, remember what our business model is. Okay, we're going to sell brand name products. We're going to buy them low. We're going to sell them higher. We're going to sell them in Amazon via what's called FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. And the reason we're doing that is it meets the criteria for winning the buy box. The buy box is where 90% of Amazon sales occur. So to win the buy box, remember, you have to, number one, sell new. Okay, so we can't be selling used items or refurbished items and have an opportunity to win that buy box where 90% of sales occur. So it's critical that we find out from these suppliers if they sell only new unless notified. All right. Now, I just mentioned how to win the buy box. If you're really new to this and you haven't seen that, make sure you check out the video where I go into great depth about how to win the buy box. Even if you're just launched or you're just starting, I can show you how to get yourself guaranteed sales literally day one. So make sure you check that out. Do you have any clients that do net 30 as payment methods? So again, that goes back to the top where do you allow credit? Okay. So we want to know if they in the future, do they offer any type of payments, net 30, net 60, net 90, things like that. Have you worked with an Amazon seller before? If so, do your invoices work to get brand approval? Now, this is really important. We talked a little bit before about how we're going to work with authorized suppliers, authorized suppliers. And the reason we want to work only with authorized suppliers is because they have the permission and the rights from the brands and the manufacturers to sell those items. And as given permission from the brands and manufacturers, they have the rights to give us those brands and the rights to sell those brands. So one of the key elements, though, is we're going to need to be approved in some of these categories. And in order to get approved, we're going to need invoices, finalized invoices from our suppliers. So to know up front if they've worked with Amazon before in that regard to get brand approval would be really great. Now, if they don't, that's okay. I'm not gonna click them off my list if everything else works. I'll just teach them how to do it, which is not bad either. Because again, remember, we want to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. Therefore, that gives us greater opportunity and less competition. What category does most of your sales come from? And again, there are certain suppliers that deal with certain categories. You have electronic suppliers, you have outdoor suppliers, home and garden suppliers, children's toy suppliers. So if you kind of find out what is their category, you'll better understand whether or not this is somebody for you. Now, in another one of the videos, I talk about the 5 best categories to sell in. So you might want to check that one out too. And again, once you decide what category you want to work in, we're going to work towards finding those suppliers. So are you kind of getting an idea? Finding suppliers is about creating a list that is very, very long, dozens, hundreds. And then we've got to kind of work through the list to find the ones that work for us. And one of the things I always emphasize to our students is finding suppliers is not an event, it's a process that we go through. What are your warehouse locations, or where are your warehouse locations? It's not that important because of the way our society is now, and with shipping the way it is, it can be really anywhere. But it's kind of nice if you find a supplier that has warehouses on both East Coast and West Coast, so that when the products get shipped to Amazon, it's more direct. And do you ship directly to Amazon? Now, this is absolutely important, okay? If they say no, bring that up and explain why it will benefit them. Okay, so let me explain this one. If you're dealing with a supplier that works with Amazon, that's fantastic. Then they're already educated and schooled on what it takes and how to do it. But if they don't work with Amazon currently, don't cross them off your list, because all we need to do is educate them on how to work with Amazon. Because remember, the big deal is we're going to be using FBA. We don't want to see it. We don't want to touch it. We don't want to feel it. Okay. We just want to be able to find the right products and have our suppliers, our authorized suppliers, who give us permission to sell those branded products and have them shipped directly to Amazon. See, that's the platform that makes this such an amazing opportunity and amazing business. All right. So again, a great list of questions that you should be asking your suppliers. And again, if you're not sure how to find suppliers, make sure you check out the video on how to identify and find suppliers. And then this is a great checklist to vet those suppliers, to find the ones that are going to work with you the way you need them to work with you. But again, this is the most amazing business opportunity we have seen in our lifetime, but it does take some education. You've heard me say this before. Last year, 700,000 people registered to sell on Amazon, and less than 10% sold even one item. So there's a disconnect there, right? Nobody succeeds by themselves, especially in this world, this fast-paced, changing world. So what you need is you need a mentor and you need a guide. And I would love to be the one to show you how to build an Amazon business, not just sell Amazon products. Now, if you're available this week, I happen to be hosting a free online webinar, and it's where I'm going to go into our business model that we've developed. And the neat thing about this is it's nothing new and it's not hard. It is a time-tested business model that's been around forever. Companies like Costco and Walmart and Target use it. You just need to learn how to use it within the world of Amazon. And that's what I want to do. So if you want to attend the workshop, click that registration button down below, get yourself registered. It's a short 60, 90-minute webinar, and I promise you I will not waste your time. And when it's done, you're going to be smarter than 99% of the people that are out there trying to sell on Amazon today. So again, my name's Bob Schneck. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all the social media, and make sure you get registered to attend the workshop, because remember, it costs you nothing. It's free to attend, but it can cost you a lifetime of opportunity if you miss it. We'll see you there. Thank you.